Hey, this is Max Dennison. This is another conversation at Tech Talks. Today I have the guest Jordan Dubose from UPMC. Um, Jordan has an interesting background in tech, and we're going to, his is merged with medicine, but we're going to let him speak about his career and his journey. So we'll start, Jordan. You go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jordan Dubose. I am an IT manager at UPMC. I manage a small engineering team in the enterprise architecture department. We review all of the new technologies that are onboarded at UPMC. So if it's network connected to our network, we review that. If it's UPMC users logging into the solution, we review that as well, just to make sure that solution we're buying meets our standards and is safe. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and what I do currently. Yep.
All right, so thanks for joining, Jordan. We appreciate you. So we're going to start from the beginning. Are you from the city? Where are you from?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your journey, I guess like early years, middle school, high school, early interested in tech?
Let's see. So I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio. I went to a high school here in Youngstown called Ursuline High School. I've always been with like video games and things of that nature. My first love was basketball. Unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but I had childhood cancer. So I had bone cancer that was discovered when I was 17. So my college basketball dreams and just doing more after high school kind of went away there. So fortunately, my grades were still really good. In high school, I believe I had a 3.8. I graduated with that and was able to get some scholarship money from different schools. I ended up deciding to go to Duquesne University. I actually followed my now wife. She was a year older than me, and she wanted to go to Duquesne. And I at that point, when I had cancer and whatnot, I really didn't know which school I wanted to go to. I more or less just wanted to go play basketball. I was going to go, wherever university gave me the most money, to go. And like I said, my grades were still good. I got a really good scholarship from Duquesne and went to Duquesne and graduated with a health management systems degree, which then in turn kind of led me on the path I'm on now, for sure. So I think when I was younger, I thought about perhaps being a doctor, a physician. For a time there, I loved cars and different things like that. So maybe it'd be great to be like an engineer and design cars. I have a family member that designs cars or used to design cars for Ford. So I thought that was always cool. And like I said, as life kind of progressed for me, I fell into IT. I didn't grow up programming or doing anything like that. And honestly, at my core, I'm not a developer or a programmer. I'm more of the analyst, project management type deal. However, certainly, like I said, as I've worked for UPMC, begun to have a love for technology and how things work. So yeah, that's kind of how I started. Kudos to Duquesne. I think what got me on the IT path for sure was, in order to graduate, we were required to do an internship. So during my junior year of at Duquesne, I had opportunity to be an abstractor. And for UPMC, what an abstractor did was, at that time, we were trying to migrate and get away from paper records. So I literally took all of the like paper records and scanned, each document in one by one into Epic. So that was kind of like my first introduction to healthcare IT. From there, I then did the summer associate program at UPMC, which was a 11-week program in the summer, internship essentially, with the opportunity to apply to a program called ITR, which is a rotation program now today. So I was blessed and had that opportunity as well. And I did my rotation right after school. When I graduated from Duquesne, and I rotated to 4 different teams. So I did a rotation with our Cerner EHR team. I did a rotation with our information security team, enterprise architecture, and our data centers team. So that was 6-month rotations over a 2-year period. And after that rotation program, had the opportunity to be placed on a team, and I chose enterprise architecture. and maybe just talk a little bit about that choice. I've always have been kind of like general. I like to see a lot of different things and be exposed to a lot of different things. I didn't want to be pigeonholed into one specific area. And with enterprise architecture, we have representation from the various IT areas. So there's security engagements, there's networking, even some development, engagements that we do. So I have opportunity to see a lot of different areas and not be, pigeonholed into one particular idea, which was beneficial to me. So that's kind of how I've gotten here. Yeah.
Well, you say you did, you had a 3.8 GPA. Were there any classes, looking back, that prepared you, or were you just a good student? Or are there any classes that maybe you think you should have took when you got the 3.8? Because obviously you were smart, intelligent, but was there anything specifically that prepared you for your transition to university and being able to do the things you are able to do today?
Yeah, I would say currently the most impactful classes probably have been, English. I do a great deal of communication and trying to be concise in my role and our team's role. We kind of sit in the middle between our peer technologists and the business. So we often have to translate, maybe some of the technical issues or challenges to our business. If there's risk associated, being able to put that in something that's digestible from someone who may not be a technologist. So certainly like English, we do a lot of writing. I think if you're going to probably be a little bit more on the programming and more on the technical aspects of technology, certainly math was big. I did pretty well in math. As you get a little bit more advanced, is all good. But yeah, I would say those are probably the main areas. I think for me, being involved, I've always been, involved in different extracurriculars as well. I think that's really big, especially as we're doing like interviews and things now. We're looking at candidates. If you're on a sports team or if there's some other after school program that you're a part of, if you're volunteering, if you're doing anything with your churches or in the communities, that's really important as well. And those are some of the things that I did in high school. And then also at Duquesne, I was a resident assistant. I also was the president of a few clubs on campus. So certainly showing that, you're able to maintain a good GPA, as well as, branch out and be a leader in the communities that you're in. I think that's really important. And it helps, tell a story, helps show that you're pretty versatile. So I would say that's important.
Okay. Is there, when you were working, was there a mentor? I know you mentioned a family member who designed cars. Was there somebody specifically who drove your interest into IT? I know you said you had some basketball dreams, like most of us did. But did anybody kind of push you towards the direction of tech or IT, or did you just kind of look at the options presented in front of you and went with the best option?
Yeah. So I was always interested in healthcare, especially, when I was sick. Whether that was going to be a physician, I think I've always wanted to do something in healthcare. I think, having that requirement, right, to do an internship to graduate, I think that led me to technology. So that was the push. Now, since being there, I think something that was very valuable, my high school coach, he used to always talk about being coachable and learning. So I've tried to do that. And I know a lot of times, especially being younger, you think you kind of like know everything. So I've always tried to just be quiet and see what people are trying to tell me. And then also I looked at maybe some of my mentors, like how they live life and what they were able to do for their families. So if I would see like, hey, this person seems to be doing pretty well and able to, take care of their families very well, let me talk to them and see how they operate. So I've had some really great mentors. My current boss, she's awesome, very flexible, always providing some good guidance. And then during my rotation program, I had a lot of different mentors, whether they were my, immediate managers or program leadership in the ITR program. For me, it was, kind of knowing like from my past, how I kind of came up and knowing how the life I wanted to live. I was looking at, other folks, how they operated and, asking them, hey, so, what did you do? What was your path? That helped me a whole lot. And like I said, just being coachable and knowing that, there's different answers to the questions for sure, and to listen to other people. So that's what I had to do. Yeah.
Interesting how you connect the health with your health as well. Just story. So let's kind of dive into. I know you gave an explanation and you told us what you do, but on a day-to-day for the average layman person who may not work at a hospital facility or be in IT, can you break down your day-to-day or even your week-to-week? What does it look like? What are you trying to accomplish on a regular basis, and how does it work in the overall scheme at UPMC?
Gotcha. Yeah, on a day-to-day, certainly I triage just a lot of different emails from different groups and organization. In order for a technology, whether that's an application that clinicians are going to use, a medical device that's going to be used on patients, if it connects to the network or UPMC users log into it, we review that. So we have a intake process set up where if it's anything that's new coming in, we review that, the team of engineers that we have. And we work with the different areas here at UPMC. So depending on what it is, if it's like a medical device, we'll work with biotronics. Depending on the situation, if there's some leases that are cutting over, if there's a refresh or upgrades, we may work a little bit with supply chain. There's different construction projects. So I would say the main part, or I guess the day-to-day, what I would do starting out is just going through my emails, making sure I'm up to date, organizing the different tasks that I need to complete. There's our deliverable for our team is a report. So maybe at a high level, how our process works, we'll receive the request. So let's say it's a new technology that needs to be reviewed. We'll work with that owner here at UPMC to gather information on that solution, right? So which hospitals is it going to be deployed to? What's the scope of the solution? Where is it going to be used? Is it mobile? Is it stationary? We get that type of information, and then we go a little bit deeper in getting the technical information on the solution to make sure it meets UPMC standards. So we don't want it to have old technology, right? We don't want it to be running Windows 7. We don't want it to be running outdated server versions, things of that nature. And we review that information. Once we feel we've had enough information, we have a review call with our architects, our engineers, and those support teams that are going to be managing that solution, and the vendor. And that just gives us another opportunity to double check, to ask questions about the solution. We'll ask about future iterations of that solution and make sure that it'll grow in a cohesive manner for UPMC and not be detrimental down the line. And then our deliverable is a report, right? So we'll highlight the risk associated with that solution. If there's any requirements that the solution will need to meet in order to be deployed, we'll put that out there as well and send it to those implementation teams that are going to deploy. So we might have 3 or 4 calls a day like that. There's also other like process improvement engagements that I'll get looped into, or there might be like an emergency situation I might need to assist with. Like, hey, we have this operating room that's opening up at this date, and in order to meet the supply chain timeline, we might need to see if we can deploy this sooner or later. There's a lot of different requests that come our way as well. So I'm in my email a whole lot. I'm on calls. Yeah, I'd say I hope that's granular enough. Yeah, that's kind of the day to day. I mean, one thing that's awesome, like I said, my boss is awesome for sure, and our department, we're very flexible. So, we're salaried. As long as the work is getting done, you have the flexibility to take care of life's needs. So my path, I kind of flex work, right? So maybe I'll if I have to help with the family or something, you know, and cut out at 3 or something like that, I'll have the ability to do that. And then if I need to complete something, I'll come back later and do that. And that's been working well for me for sure. So like I said, the ability to be flexible. I mean, I'm currently working from home today. Everybody, you know, knows with COVID, right? Life has been very different the last 3 years. And with technology, Zoom, Teams, whatever you're using, the ability to work remote and still be, you know, effective has definitely been leveraged for sure.
Cool. Now, I don't know if you can talk about the technologies, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. So do private developers or outside developers bring you the technology? Can you sign up for this that you guys verify? So if I'm understanding correctly, you manage a team, they bring you, I guess you'll answer that question, either private or public developers bring you new technology. You guys pretty much go through it, make sure it works with the existing systems you guys have within UPMC, and then you write up a report that says whether this will work or not. Is that close or?
Yeah, I would say that the initiation comes from the business, and you know that can come from many of the different departments. Number one, hey, we're a hospital system, so there's clinical use cases, whether it's our electronic health records, our electronic medical systems. We have radiology systems, cardiology systems, et cetera. Any of the ologies. If it's a new solution that will be used in the enterprise. So that's coming from big name vendors. Sometimes we do have smaller developed, you know, programs that, you know, clinicians or administrative folks want to use that we'll review. I would say a lot of the different vendors, if you want to put like names on them, you know, like GE, like Stryker, Philips, you know, bigger names like that. They have these, you know, big systems, or they have these big software platforms that we review. You know, those technologies, and it's cyclical, right? Like there's always, if you look at your iPhone, right, you'll get an update, right? So we need to verify that that update won't affect anything, you know, here on the UPMC side of things. But I think you summarized it correctly. You know, the business will say, hey, we have this need, there's this new solution, or we have this need, there's an upgrade. They'll send it to us just to make sure everything is kosher, and we'll report back on our findings.
Okay. And kind of just to pivot a little bit. So we didn't talk about it, and I'm not sure if you said it or not. Did you need to go to university? I know you said you did the 2-year internship. I know a lot of people nowadays are really interested in tech because we have boot camps. We have other trajectories that can get you really sustainable income. Was your journey similar to that, or did you have to go to a university? What was your journey education-wise?
Yeah. So I guess I'm still on the, or I fell in that traditional educational journey where, you know, you do your high school, you do your 4 years of undergrad. I went on and did a MBA with Pitt as well. But certainly I think now just with technology and access to information, which is so awesome, you know, you mentioned those boot camps, you can get into IT and not need a 4-year degree. One of my big things now, just with the cost of education, and you know, coming from families and whatnot that may not have the means, right? Is understanding that cost, and you know, if looking at student loans, it's important to understand how the cost of education and perhaps the debt that you may take on to achieve that education will weigh in on your life. So I'm a big proponent, if you don't need to go into debt, you know, to pursue your dreams, don't do that. My grandparents were awesome. They took care of me for my undergrad, but then my graduate degree, I have to pay for, right? And that just changes up things. So you know, would I spent on my MBA, or would I look for a more cost-effective option? I think now, knowing a little bit more about, you know, debt and some of the other life goals you know, my wife and I have financially, maybe I would have looked at a different route. However, you know, it's always a what if and whatnot, right? I've done well. Who knows if what's coming next is going to require that master's. But certainly, like if there's, you know, if you want to be a programmer or an engineer, and you can, get a really great paying job just off of a boot camp, do that. If if there's no aspirations for like, upper management and things like that, or working for a corporation, if you want to be a developer on your own, certainly leverage what you can in a very cost-effective way. I think all those programs are awesome. Even like the CCAC opportunities where you can do the 2 years and then you can do another 2 years and get your degree in a cost-effective way. Do that and stay away from debt. Yeah, 100%. And buy real estate if you can too. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Absolutely. So can you explain what's IT? What's the difference between IT? So if a kid wanted to go to university, and what would they major in? But we oftentimes hear computer science versus computer programming, IT. Is there a difference? Can you explain that?
Sure. I think it's multifaceted. Like I said, my major was health management systems, and how they broke it down was the major was supposed to be 3 parts. It was supposed to be like healthcare, business, and IT, right? It was supposed to be those 3 pieces. So I'm not a traditional software engineer or program, and I think that's where it goes back to like being coachable and always learning and taking advantage of this information we have access to. Typical degrees, if you follow like a curriculum or what you need to go into, certainly it's computer science. I believe there are some specific like information technology programs as well, but I think you could be a business major and learn about IT. Like you mentioned, the boot camps. There's also a lot of these low cost education platforms like Udemy and LinkedIn Learning and so many others where you can learn about core IT infrastructure. You can learn about cloud compute, and I think if you're very interested in it, right, that's where it starts. I don't know if there's one particular degree that you need to pursue in order to work in IT. I think it's very flexible in what you're working. I think there's individuals with like art degrees that come in into IT if they have an interest, right? Yeah. Yep. Hope I answered that well for you.
Yeah. So my question, it seems like you did a lot of work at the University of Pittsburgh. Did you transition right out of school into the 2-year program, or did you, what was your first steps after you got your degree? Did you know exactly that you wanted to work at UPMC, or?
Right. Yeah. So what was that? That was 2014. I did that summer associates program, that 11-week internship. I also had the opportunity to continue working until I graduated in May of 2015. So I did that. And with that summer associate program, they give you the opportunity to apply for the ITR program, which was that 2-year rotation program. So I knew going into my senior year that I had a full-time job already set up. So it was August of 2014. I had my job offer from UPMC. So I knew what I was doing, right after graduation. And then I entered that 2-year rotation program upon graduation, and moved from there. I did take 6 months off, and then I started on my MBA at Pitt. I believe that was August of 2016, or it might have been January of 2016, actually. I started in 2016 on my MBA and finished that August of 2018. So I didn't take too much time off. I actually recommend, depending on what your goals are from a family perspective, certainly if you're planning to start a family, get the schooling out of the way. So that's one less thing. But I remember starting my master's program, and we went around in a circle and everybody was saying, when they graduated. And at the time, folks were saying, oh, I graduated in 2008 or 2005. And here I was like, 2015, 6 months ago. I think taking some time to figure out what you really want to do, what you really want to invest in, because education is an investment. And if you don't have the funds for that investment, you're taking out loans, and and that can have effects down the line on what you're able to do financially. Take some time to figure that out. Certainly leverage any scholarships that are available, or employer sponsored programs that are available, so you get kind of lessen that financial burden. But that was my path. There's so many more paths, it seems, even from 2018, that you could take advantage of now to get in a similar spot, or just even make similar money. There's a lot of avenues, and it's all out there. If you have an iPhone or a smartphone, you can hit the Google and check it out. Yep.
Yeah. What would you say is the toughest part of your day to day?
The toughest part.
Yeah.
Some engagements are just challenging. I think, like I said, and some engagement requires you to take a step back and digest it and formulate a path forward. So I would say those difficult challenges we see, whether we have a strong need for a solution and that solution just isn't up to date, yet we still need it to serve our patients. So how do we deploy that in a very safe manner to UPMC and our patients? I would say situations like that are challenging. I probably have a poor work-life balance, just the way I'm wired. I love what I do. I try to stay on top of things, so I often work probably a little bit longer, like than outside of the hours and things like that. But that's all personal preference and just how I operate. So I would say perhaps sometimes that's challenging. But yeah, I would say that's the hardest part. I hope I answered that well. Like I said, just depending on what comes in, right? If it's not straightforward, like if it isn't a straightforward answer, or if there's multiple ways to solve that problem or challenge, it can be challenging, like picking what you want to do. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Picking that forward.
So obviously your career has been, rewarding, it's put you in a good position. You seem to be happy with it. Hindsight is always, 2020. How would you, or if you could do, if there was no restrictions and you wanted to get younger people, African-American, young men and women, women in general, what do you think we need to do, or how do we get them more involved into technology? We know that, it's still less than 7% of people like us in the tech space, people of color, the whole BIPOC community. How do you, in your opinion, how do you engage the younger generations to be more interested in tech?
Right. I think programs like this, Max, is certainly a start. Like I said, growing up, I had no clue. From here in Youngstown, it was work for GM, or do something in healthcare, work for the hospital. There wasn't really a lot of visibility into the other areas of the workplace. So I think programs like this, where you bring in folks that are currently working in IT, maybe there's avenues to have people even search, like the top jobs right now, right? I know you can do that, and like usually US News, they'll have a list of the best occupations, and I think a lot of times IT is on there. So then dive down a little bit deeper and see what that's about. One thing, like whenever folks do ask my opinion, certainly I think folks need to determine how they want to live and what their lifestyle is going to be. So kind of corresponding to, what major you pick and things of that nature, make sure that aligns with the lifestyle you want to live. So if you want to go on vacation 4 times a year, or if you want to be able to help out your mom and dad, make sure you're picking an occupation that will afford that, and start to kind of figure out how much money, you'll need to make to do those things. I think the more conversations we have, the more opportunity we have to get in front of, the younger generation and at least put that out there for them, the better. But certainly, Google's our best friend, if you will, or at least searching, having the ability to search is your best friend. Those top positions. IT is going to be here. It's here. It's not going away. You're never too far behind, or it's never too much. When I was younger, certainly had a little bit of like imposter syndrome because I wasn't a technician, if you will. So when I'm in a room with a lot of highly technical individuals, it's like, oh man, what am I doing here? No, sit there, be coachable, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Get comfortable with yourself and know that you can do a good job and you have value to offer. So yeah, I hope that helps. Like the conversations like this is awesome because maybe somebody, will listen. Maybe somebody will pick up their phone and say, hey, I want to be a software engineer. I want to be an IT director. What's the path? How do you get there? Yeah.
And that's a perfect segue into, my next question. If you were to clone yourself, if you were to bring somebody in and you had to leave for a year, what skills make you really good at what you do? I think you spoke to some of them. Obviously, you said being coachable, but just on a day-to-day, what skill sets would make you really great at what you do?
Organization, communication, writing skills are really important. Being punctual and on time, which is probably a bit of being organized. That's very important, and then giving effort. Trying your best. Those are some of the core competencies you need to have for sure. But the technical stuff will come, but those soft skills, just being a good person, being somebody wants to work with. If you do that, you'll be ahead of the game for sure. Yeah.
Okay. If you could, I guess if you could do it all over again, and you're a high school, so if you could look back and speak to the Jordan in high school, is there anything that you would go back and work on more specifically, still trying to get back to the end goal of where you're at now? So to answer that specifically, when I asked myself that question, I would have doubled down on my math skills. I would have probably more logic to be able to be a better programmer. In your field, what would that be for you?
Yeah, certainly taking advantage of some of the training opportunities I had and still have, and focusing on that. I think about my college years and how much time was available, and there was some kids I went to school with where they were like working on their own businesses and trying to figure it out. And I think some of those times where I might have gone to the gym or did some other extracurricular activity, if I would have just maybe spent a little bit more time focusing on my technical skills or just coming up with some life goals, right? Doing a little bit more research. I think I would have liked to leverage that time a little bit better in college for sure. I think everybody should understand, technology because it's here. I think we should understand just how our internets work. We should, understand how some of the devices that we utilize are going to work, and that's going to help you regardless of what sector you work in, because everybody has to use a laptop. Everybody's using a smartphone, so it'd be good just to kind of have a little bit more knowledge on that. But like I said, leverage your time accordingly. That's the one thing I would change. I think there's a lot of times as I look back where it was like, that I really just need to be hanging out. Maybe I could have been working on a business plan or doing some research. Just a little bit more. So yeah.
Okay. And as we start to round out our questions, I guess for me, what is the future of healthcare IT work? How much does what you do affect like the community in general?
Yeah, I think UPMC is doing a really great job focusing on analytics and like all of the information that we bring in our organization and trying to push better outcomes for the community. From my perspective, I feel we support our clinicians and administrative staff So when we get certain challenges and we get certain technology, I truly do want to make sure we're aiding our clinicians, because at the end of the day, it's about the patient, it's about the community. So, everything we're doing is trying to make sure that, folks are safe, folks' data is safe, the devices that are being used on them are going to actually work and actually produce the right readings. So I feel very strongly that, to do everything in our power to make that happen for the community. Because, hey, I'm a UPMC patient, and my family is, so we certainly want all that to be right, and we try our best. So it's vital. Yep, it's vital for sure.
All right, and then my last question to close out. If you had a word of advice to young people that wanted to get into IT in general, please leave them with a message before you go. And then also, if somebody wanted to reach you, ask you for some advice, potentially ask you a mentoring question, how can they find you? And I'm going to do the last word after that, man. But thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say, you can do it. Help yourselves, help your family. If you're interested in something, research it. If you have Google, whatever search engine you use, learn about it. The information's out there, whether it's YouTube or Udemy or LinkedIn. The information is there now. You just got to reach out and get it and be interested and do it. So that's my word of advice. Oh, and stay away from debt. Yeah, 100%. If you don't need to take out that loan, don't do it. Yeah. So that's what I want to leave them with.
And how could they find you if they wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I know, Max, you have my information. Please feel free if anybody wants to connect with me. LinkedIn would be good, or email. I have no worries. Love to talk to people, and if you want me to share my thoughts, I will. So 100%.
Okay, I'm gonna round it up. This was Jordan Dubose, UPMC, Healthcare and IT Management and Technologies. Thanks again for joining us. Hopefully the young people who watch it, or even the older adults who watch it, who may want to do a career switch, can get some good information and knowledge from your interview today. We appreciate you, man, for coming on. And again, we look forward to seeing what you get done in the future. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all. Really appreciate it.